should get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Last week, I went ahead and taught you guys all about how lights and shadows work and how you can apply that to your graffiti. But in today's video, I want to take it from the books to a wall and demonstrate these techniques. That way you guys can see it firsthand. And you can see just how easy it is to actually do. We're going to be looking at some basic shapes and forms, as well as a quick little straight letter R to demonstrate the technique. Now, before we continue, I gotta give a massive thank you and shout out to Montana for making this video possible. If you want to buy yourself some paint, be sure to go ahead and pick yourself up some Montana. I got some links for you in the description down below. Once again, massive thank you for supporting the content. So without further ado, hopping right into this. If you remember last week's video, one of the major talking points was how you have to actually plan out the direction of your light source, and this is going to dictate where all of your shadows go as well. So here we're going to have our light source on the top left, and we have three different basic forms here. And understanding how to shade this is going to help you immensely for shading things like bubbles that you put around your piece. But we also got ourselves a cube, which is great for learning how to shade your 3D, and a cylinder, which is great for the same exact reasons. For most notably letters like R, B, P, letters that are more rounded. As you can see, for our sphere, we used one solid color. Now, if you want to save paint, you want to be a little bit more savvy as far as your paint's concerned, you can opt to fill in only the highlight area because we will be using a different color for the actual shadow area. But I just wanted to establish the shape here, so I opted to fill the entire thing. On the cube, however, you'll see we fill in one side with this one solid color. It's here that you can opt to choose different shading styles. If you're going for a more simplistic shading, you can opt to shade this empty area with one solid darker color. And after you shade that darker color, you can actually stop right here. This is shading that you might see a lot of graffiti artists do nowadays. But if you want to take your shading to the next level and you want to add a little bit more complexity to it, then we can continue. We're going to begin taking our darker blue here, and we're going to angle the cap in such a way where the actual nozzle of it is facing towards the fill-in. This way we don't get any overspray going outside of our lines. If that ends up happening to you, don't worry, you can easily just buff it, or you can easily cut the line with a different spray paint color. So as you're angling the can, you do want to make sure that you're keeping that angle consistent with the actual outline of the shape you're filling in. This is really going to end up being a back and forth game with every single shape here, where we go with the darker color and then we fade back in with a lighter color, where we go at a distance and we kind of spray a little bit, letting that overspray catch onto the wall very slightly. This helps us in order to fade out the darker values, and vice versa. You're going to take the darker values and you're going to do the same thing until you feel like you've established the form properly. You can go back and forth with this method until you're happy with it. It's here where many people would stop, and you're completely okay to do that. You can call it quits once you've gone ahead and shaded this far, but if you want to, you can add another shadow, and this is going to help you to establish even more depth in your pieces. You can see now, instead of just using the light blue and the medium blue, now we're beginning to use the medium blue and the actual dark blue for our deepest shadows. And once again, we're just going to apply the same principle here, and we're going to go back and forth with the medium blue and the dark blue, fading one into the other, back and forth until you're happy with the actual outcome. Now, once you finish with that, once you've established your form to the way that you like it, you can opt to go ahead and add a reflective light. Now, this is completely optional. You do not have to do this, but it just adds a little bit more dimension, a little bit more depth to your actual letters. And the way you're going to do this is if you have any kind of medium tone can, or you have any kind of transparent cans as well, you can go ahead and fade that on the very edge of your form. Remember, don't make this too strong of a highlight. It is, after all, just a reflective light, meaning it's not going to be as light as anything outside of the shadow. So you do want to kind of temper that and be a little bit more conserved with those highlights. And as you can see, none of these things change once we actually go to a letter. You'll notice with the actual letter itself, we don't really care about the fill-in. We're only focused on shading the 3D. That's all that matters at this point. We can easily go ahead and cut our lines, clean things up, and freshen the piece back up in regards to the fill-in a little bit later. But we do want to make sure that the 3D is nice and refined. We want to take care of that. So we're going back and forth with the highlights and the shadows and the really deeper shadows in order to make this 3D pop. And all the while, we're keeping our light source in mind. We're never straying away from that. That's really the most important part of this technique. If you start to stray too far away from your light source, then your shading isn't really going to look all that convincing. And you're probably going to end up flattening your image out, which is the complete opposite reason as to why we shade. Once you feel like you've gotten your 3D to the point that you're satisfied with, you can go back into the fill-in and begin to clean things back up. And remember, to cut our lines, it's really simple. If you have a little bit of overspray like we have right here, all you got to do is just take the can that you want to go ahead and spray on top of the actual overspray and point it towards that same color. So as you can see here, we have a little bit of light blue that oversprayed a little bit too far. Now all we have to do is take our dark blue can and point it back towards the dark blue section and do a little bit of a quick spray, and you're good to go. And this right here is what you should about have when you're done shading. Now this is just the workflow that I prefer, but I understand graffiti artists have different orders that they like to do things, and maybe people would feel more comfortable doing the 3D last. That's completely okay as well, whatever you're most comfortable with. And then from there, provided that your stuff is extremely clean, you can honestly choose to leave it like that without an outline. This is what most 3D graffiti artists end up doing. People like Dame, PETA, this is all kind of what they do. They don't use an outline on their graffiti in most cases. But if you want, you also have the option to throw an outline on this. And you can throw whatever outline you want. You can throw a black outline, you can throw a lighter color outline, a darker color outline, it really doesn't matter. But if you choose to use the same color as your 3D, it can give you an extra little bit of pop because it looks as if the outline is actually part of the 3D itself. It looks like one whole form, which gives it an extra dimensionality to it. Overall, a pretty easy technique, right? I mean, that wasn't too bad. Now check it out. If you guys have any questions on how to do this, feel free to ask it in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to go ahead and help you out. And once again, before we head out, I gotta give a massive thank you to Montana for supporting the content and making this video possible. Don't forget to check them out in the description down below and pick up all your spray paint needs there. They have a wide arrangement of colors and values, which makes shading a lot easier. And if you've been doing graffiti for any amount of time, you know Montana is an incredible company. But with all that said, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. We're gonna be coming out with a lot more tutorials on walls. And we already have a plethora of tutorials right here in this top playlist. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next week, but until then, peace.